Hello, my name is Derek Iwanaka. I'm Vice President of Investor Relations and Corporate Development here at BeMetals Corp. In case you're not familiar, BeMetals Corp is about 6 years old, and it's I would say more focused on base metals, but we did delve into precious metals as well. So we are calling ourselves right now a base and precious metals exploration company focused on Zambia and the Zambian Copperbelt, more specifically on the western side of the Copperbelt. We do have 5 gold projects in Japan, which I'm not sure if we'll have time to discuss those, but we do have 5 gold projects in Japan, so we do have a bit of exposure to the gold as well. And our largest shareholder is B2 Gold. They own about 24% of our shares.
Nice. We know them well. We know them well. Derek, lovely to have you on the platform. We've not met or spoken before. Maybe give us a bit of a background on yourself. And if you don't mind, kind of run through the kind of active members on the team as well.
My history has always been in investor relations and in the mining industry. So I started off with a company called BMET Gold, which you might be familiar with. That was the precursor to B2 Gold. So that's 22 years ago now that I started. Worked with a couple other groups which were really great in the industry and still are. Went to the Discovery Group, was working with John Robbins and some of the folks there that are still there. And the company I was with was bought out, and then I moved on to a company called Uranus Energy, which was a uranium producer out of Wyoming. And then that company got bought out. And I moved on to another group, which is part of First Majestic Silver, with a company called First Mining Gold. And that was a lot of fun. We went out and did a number of acquisitions and accumulated a lot of gold ounces and resources, and that is being developed as we speak. But about 6 years ago, I was asked by Clive Johnson to join the team here at BeMetals. And it was just a wonderful opportunity to come back to the same guys that I knew. A lot of the directors were executives at B2 Gold and formerly with BMET Gold. So it was kind of homecoming for me to come back to the group.
Right. And if you don't mind, kind of, like I say, if we can talk about some of the active members on the team, because I always think that sometimes explorers they have a lot of nameplate names, not a lot of active names. So, like the CEO, John Wilton, what's he actually do?
So John Wilton is our CEO. He is actually based in your neck of the woods. So he's actually based in Cornwall. He's a professional geologist, probably most well known for discovering the Otjikoto deposit, which is I guess a 2 million ounce gold deposit in Namibia. That got vended onto Oryx and then was eventually bought out by B2 Gold. And that was the connection there. When B2 came on board and developed that and turned it into a mine, they invited John to the opening ceremony, and he struck up a relationship with Tom Garrigan, who is also on our board. Tom Garrigan is also a geologist, has made several discoveries. Probably the most exciting one was the Kupol deposit in Russia that turned into a 7 million ounce high-grade gold and silver deposit. Tom has since retired from B2 Gold, but he's still very active on our board. And then probably the most well-known person would be Clive Johnson. He's the CEO of B2 Gold. He's our largest independent shareholder, but he's also very active on the board. He's one of the founding directors for BeMetals, as is a man named Roger Riche. Roger Riche, a lot of overlap here, also was a former executive with B2 Gold and formerly with BMET Gold. So a lot of history, as you can see, with the same folks. I think those 3 individuals have been working together for some 30, 40 years. And then we have Mark Conley, who you might be familiar with. He was former managing director of Papillon Resources. Papillon had the Fekola deposit in Mali, and that was then bought out by B2 Gold and developed, and now is their largest producing asset. I think it's producing around 600,000 ounces of gold per year. So those are the main people. We also have Nick Ferber and Kristen Ranitson in the back office, keeping the day-to-day going for the company. But those are the main people.
Right. Sounds like you got the B2 band back together again. So you've got to ask, so what did they set out to do? What have you guys set out to do? And have you achieved it so far?
So the premise of the company was a lot of base metal ideas were coming across the desk of the B2 guys, and they weren't able to touch them because they were specifically focused on precious metals. And so A couple of those deals fell onto their lap, one of which was the Pangeni Copper Project, which John was kind of shepherding at the time and is still doing that with BeMetals. So that was kind of the qualifying transaction that really got the company started. We did delve into a couple other projects. I talked to you a little bit about these Japanese assets, but the main focus is just on Zambia, and we're focused on the Central African Copperbelt, more specifically the Zambian portion of it.
Okay, so you better tell people about Zambia, because most of the North American market don't know much about Africa, let alone specific countries. So what do we need to know about doing business in country?
So Zambia is one of the best places. It's often confused with Zimbabwe, which is not quite as easy to do business with at the moment, at least. So Zambia is, one of the oldest democratic countries in Africa. It is one of the safest countries to operate in. What really attracted us, not only because of the geopolitical regime, but also because of the technical aspects, and that is mostly because it has a lot of copper, a lot of massive copper deposits all along the belt there. Probably the most well-known neighbors, you can call them, would be First Quantum Minerals and Barrick Gold. So they are both operating large-scale copper mines just to the just to the east of us.
Right. Okay. And how long have you guys been actually working in country, operating there?
6 years now.
6 years.
John
okay.
has been working there a little bit longer because he was with a private company before that was also operating there, and then prior to that, he was actually with Antofagasta PLC. That's the copper producer out of Chile. So he has been working on it for probably 10 years now, I believe.
Right. Okay. So that's what's been going on. In terms of the asset, you've sort of explained how you've got it, but can you explain, what you've got today and what you're trying to do with it? Because I'm sort of, I've got to have this conversation with you in the context of, today, sub $15 million market cap company. It's been a tough 3-4 years for equities out there. So how have you kind of moved that project along in country?
So we've taken it from just a concept, so very, very early stage grassroots exploration. We punched in several holes kind of between 2018 to 2023. And then towards the end of 2023, we hit what I'd hope to call a discovery hole. So that was the first hole where we actually hit what you could call an ore grade intersection. It was about 17 meters of 0.7% copper. That was in an area called the D Prospect. And then since that time, we have put in another, I believe, almost 10 holes now. And we're just waiting for the results of the next round of drilling, which probably will be sometime in January. But I mean, basically, we've taken it from a concept. We've proven the concept, we've drilled, and this is, just to be clear, this is undercover exploration, so it's all covered by sand. The Kalahari Desert basically covers all the bedrock geology. So what you do here is we flew aeromagnetics. We then got some targets. From those targets, we then did aircore drilling, which is kind of like cheap, almost like RC drilling, but cheaper. That gets us to the bedrock geology, and then from there, we can kind of hone into wherever there's copper anomalies and then do further drilling, which is core drilling. So that's the process for exploration there. It's been working. We've been hitting copper. We hit this D prospect area, as I said earlier this year, and then we've been focusing on that. So we put in another 5 holes. We put out the results of those drilling results, which were really good. Did see a little bit of pop in the stock, but unfortunately the markets have tanked since then, so it's been a tough go since then. But we are doing a drill program right now, and as I said, we'll get those drilling results sometime early in the new year.
And so previous grades have looked like what? So what sort of area?
It's averaging between 0.35 to 0.74% copper. I would say right now we're averaging about 0.5% copper.
Okay, about global average at the moment, it seems. And what sort of intervals are we looking at? If you sort of if you can give me a bit more detail on the drilling.
Yeah, so we've been drilling all over this D prospect area. So we've been drilling to the south west. We've also been drilling to the northeast, trying to extend it. That's the results that we're waiting for right now. And then we'll have to see what those results look like to determine what the next program is going to be. We do have the cash to do the next phase of drilling. And I didn't mention that the Japanese state agency you might be familiar with, JOGMEC. So JOGMEC is a joint venture partner of ours, and kind of seems strange that they're actually helping us in Zambia, not in Japan, but they are. And so they have basically been funding approximately 28% of the exploration costs there since they became involved.
Okay, and how do they? They're not equity holders, presumably, but
they're not equity holders, so they're just at the project level, and they just fund straight exploration costs.
Up until what point?
Until if they exercise all their rights, they would take it all the way up to a feasibility study.
Okay. And how long have they been involved? How many meters? How much money have they spent to date?
Originally in 2021, they got involved. I think they put in just a little over $4 million so far.
Okay.
That's to maintain their pro rata percentage.
Okay, fine. And what's the kind of plan there in terms of like future funding? Because obviously partnerships, great. Can you get more of them? Do you want more?
Yeah, I mean, there are other partners out there that have expressed interest, or I guess potential partners out there that have expressed interest. I mean, I would say we probably had the best drilling results in the area, at least from a junior mining company. So the majors are definitely looking at us, but I think they like to see us do the hard work and make a discovery before they'd like to come in. And that's often the case with producers and seniors, is they like to let the juniors do all the dirty work and kind of come in and mop it up. So that's kind of the case here. Although, as I said, we do have B2 Gold as a large shareholder. B2 was more interested originally in the Japanese gold projects. So I don't know how that's going to work with that. I can't speak on behalf of B2 Gold, but so far they've been really good supporters of our company and have funded us to this point.
Well, I guess it makes a lot of sense to talk about the Japanese gold assets at the moment. Like I say, companies of your size, you got to get focused, you got to be efficient with the use of capital, etc. But at the same time, you've got to look to how you can monetize what you've got. Or create value for what you've got. So how are you viewing the Japanese assets at the moment?
So in working in Japan, there's a number of good reasons why you want to work in Japan, but one of them, for now at least, because the market is so tough and we can only afford to focus on one project, that's effectively been put on the shelf for now. And the holding costs for these Japanese assets, because we own them 100%, are quite low. So it's not... We've already put millions of dollars into the project, so we've kind of done the work to keep them in good standing. But at the moment, at least, we're just focused on Zambia.
But is there a case of like needs must at some point? Is there a decision point next year where you go, look, equities, that's expensive money right now. Certainly at these valuations, where we need to get drilling. We think we've got onto something good here. Copper, the thematic is strong. Money says gold, but we need to give this asset a chance. Do you look to make a decision about offloading the Japanese assets at some point? I know it's low cost, but needs must.
Yeah, I mean, gold has been a lot hotter than copper, as you know. So there's definitely interest for the gold assets. Japan is a really interesting terrain because not a lot of people know, but Japan hosts the highest grade operating gold mine in the world right now. It's operating around 20 grams per ton. So it's a very high grade mine. It's not the largest in the world. But it's producing somewhere around 200,000 ounces of gold per year, from my understanding. So it's a high grade and fairly large gold mine. But it doesn't get a lot of press because it's owned by Sumitomo, and it just operates in Japan, and you don't really hear a lot about it. But Japan has hosted many high grade gold mines, and just you don't hear a lot about it. And there's only just a handful of exploration, or at least Western companies that are actually operating in Japan. So you don't really hear too much about Japan. So it's kind of flying under the radar.
Right. Okay. And with regards to the BT component, I mean, 24%, that's, and if they're interested in gold, not copper, do you consider that an overhang, or would it be kind of good news for them to...
It definitely would only add value if we were to either joint venture the projects or outright sell them. hopefully we can get a reasonable price, given that we have put a fair bit of work into at least two of the projects we drilled on. One of them was a past producing mine, so there was historic mining in the project area. So there's definitely value there. We're not in a rush to get rid of them, since the holding costs are so minimal. But at some point, at least if the gold market continues to rise, there's probably going to be even more interest, and to look for areas that hasn't really seen a ton of exploration. So Japan is definitely one of those places that can deliver high grade. It's in a very geopolitically safe area, and it can be exciting. There's not a lot of competition up there.
Okay, back to the main project. I mean, you talked through the team there. I guess everyone's got lots of different projects in their own portfolio, in the sense that they've got other things that they're probably looking at. This is not a full-time gig for everyone, but for your shareholders or anyone looking into this thing, I mean, who or what gets this thing over the line? What would you expect to see next year that will get people excited? Is it just these initial drill results? Is that what we're looking to?
Yeah, I think this is going to be our, I guess, third, albeit small, round of drilling that we've done specifically on this deep prospect area at our Pangeni project. That is probably the most exciting thing that we're doing right now. I mean, that's all we can really do in this market is deliver on the drilling. And so we'll do this phase of drilling, complete that, get the results out. And then hopefully, if that looks good, we will continue with the next phase of drilling and try to build up a resource there. And so far, it's these are sediment hosted deposits. They tend to be very linear and they tend to be fairly consistent. So once you latch onto one, generally it is kind of a gift that can keep on giving. So that's what we're hoping here. I can't say that is definitely going to be the case, but they tend to be very large and contiguous, and that's what we're hoping for.
Right. Okay. I was literally going to ask you that. At what point do you say enough is enough? Because with the kind of drill results you're pulling out, this 0.5% type level of so anywhere between sort of 10 and 30 meters, 32 meters, I think in one case. Is it going to be enough to kind of put together and hang together a resource at some point down the line? Are we into this for a few more tens of thousands of meters? How does this thing get put together?
That's an excellent question, and that is something that's still being discussed at the board level. Do we need to put $50 million into this to really build it up into a multi-million ton project? That would be ideal if the market conditions were better. I think that's exactly what we'd like to do. What we've been working on is relatively shoestring budgets. So we're working on, say, $3 million budgets where you can only punch in not even 10 holes. So it's tougher for us to, I guess, incrementally build this into a scale where this is a no-brainer. But at this point, because the markets are tough, all we can do right now is continue to step out, and hopefully we continue to hit and show that this footprint is there and that the size potential is here. We're not going to have enough money to infill all that to make sure that it's all there, but that's probably the best that we can do right now is show that this thing can be a multi-million ton deposit, similar to the likes of Lumwana, which is operated by Barrick, or Kansanshi, or Sentinel, that's operated by First Quantum. If we could show that at least there's a footprint there, and I think maybe that would attract a larger joint venture partner that would want to step in, that could, have the deeper pockets, that could shell out for a really large scale exploration program, which is what the project actually deserves.
Right. Okay. So it's unlikely to be B2, but there are operators in country already. And if you can show the scale of the opportunity, you would get a partner in. Would you want to be operating it, or would you at that point happy to step back and be carried?
I guess it depends who that partner would be. Quite likely, if it was First Quantum or Barrick, I suspect that they might want to take over operations. But I mean, our team has been down there for the last 6 years, so they're pretty adept to working in those conditions and working with small budgets. If a major stepped in, we probably get a lot more drill rigs and really be able to do this project some justice. But those guys could still operate it. I mean, they can work with a larger budget and with more people. and keep the costs very reasonable, which they are quite reasonable in Zambia.
Okay. Well, Derek, look, I appreciate the first introduction to this story. Nice to have it on the platform. So quite the team you've assembled. So stay in touch. Let us know how you get on, okay?
Thank you so much, and happy holidays to you.